You are listening to PT on Ice, the older adult, a collaboration between the Senior Rehab Project and the Institute of Clinical Excellence. This is a rebroadcast of an original episode that can be found at ptonice.com.
Hey everyone, in today's episode, Dustin is going to demonstrate modifications to the Turkish get-up. It's going to be a very visual episode. So if you're listening on the podcast, you may want to head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/educatept or our Vimeo channel to check out the video, as you're going to be a little bit lost if you're trying to listen to this with audio only. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, we're live. Good morning. PT on Ice, Institute of Clinical Excellence. Good to have you. Day before Thanksgiving, a lot to be thankful for. Today, I'm thankful for Turkish get-ups. Some of you all know what a Turkish get-up is. Many of you may not. So I'll just kind of go through a background of what it is and then some of the modifications that we can make when we're working with our patients, in particular, our older patients, which I feel this is a pretty valuable exercise that we can use with them. So we'll start with a little background. So Turkish get-up supposedly comes from Turkey. The Turkish army, over 200 years ago, used this to prepare for battle. I've never heard that confirmed. It's just kind of what everyone says. So I'm not really sure where it came from. I know that we didn't come up with it, so that's fair to say. But it's a great exercise to where you go from the ground, you stand up, and then you get back down on the ground, usually with some type of weight. So it doesn't have to be a kettlebell that's behind me. It can be a barbell. It could be a human. It could be a dumbbell, sandbag, whatever. I mean, don't think this is just a kettlebell exercise by any means. And so in the kettlebell world, I'm mainly in the hard style kettlebell world. So there's two main certifying bodies. That's Dragon Door and Strong First. And so they kind of break up the different kettlebell exercises into ballistics and grinds. So ballistics is going to be your traditional kettlebell swing. It's going to be your kettlebell clean, where it's basically a swing but with a bent elbow. And then the kettlebell snatch, which is basically a swing, but you end up at the top. Then you have the grinds. So the grinds are the slow, controlled movements. You can really load them up, super heavy. So that's the squat, the single arm press, and then the Turkish get up. So the get up is meant to be performed slowly. You got to be very mindful of your position, where your hands, where your feet, where your knees are, and all those things. So this is something to not rush through personally or with your patients. So a few things to consider with the Turkish get up before you even start is, with your patients. So do they have any very obvious restrictions in their joint range of motion? So hip extension, you need that. You need ankle dorsiflexion for sure. You need some shoulder mobility to be able to get into that press position. And these are all things to really consider. But I do want to bring up the point that if they are not perfect, or if they do not meet, the required range of motion, does that mean we should not try this exercise? And I know, and definitely in the performance world, we definitely hit hard on you need to have the available range of motion to be able to do these movements and to be able to load them appropriately. Well, in my world, working with older adults, that never happens. My patients never have the available range of motion. They're just decades and decades on this planet. They're going to have some issues that I will not be able to overcome. So you're in this position to where, well, do I not load them, and just try and work on their deficit so they have perfect form, or do I load them within a zone of tolerance? That's a term Scotty Butcher has used. He's a PT up in Canada. But can I load them within the zone of tolerance to where they will get the benefits of lifting heavy things, getting that time under tension, all the hormonal responses, and just fighting off a lot of the things that we see in old age, like sarcopenia, for example. So each person's going to be different. I don't think there's this hard and fast line, but I know for me, I really struggled with waiting for perfection of a particular movement or exercise before I loaded it. And I think I was doing a big disservice to a lot of my patients because they may have needed that that type of stimulus, to be loaded, to have that difficult experience where their body promoted adaptation more so than me. It's so much focusing on if they had the available, dorsiflexion to be able to perform whatever movement. So just think about that. It's something that I am racking my brain around a lot, and we'll dive into that into the modern management of the older adult course for sure. So with that being said, let's just kind of go through some of the different steps of the Turkish get up and where you can modify it. This is a disclaimer. I don't have a perfect Turkish get up. It's pretty sloppy, and I'm okay with that. So I know some of the purists will probably be quick to critique. But this is just kind of a general video for you all to think about some things with your patients. So the first thing is the surface. So a lot of people are going to jump to a soft surface, so some type of foam, thick yoga mat, something like that. I like to stay away from the soft surfaces, especially with the older adult patients. Wrist extension can be kind of tough. In the Turkish get up, you're going to be in all kinds of different positions and all kinds of different joints, and some pretty deep wrist extension. If you're on a soft surface and you're putting weight mainly through your palm, you're going to promote more extension of that wrist. And so if you're on a hard surface, you're not going to, have that kind of over, the hyperextension, if you will. So I like to promote just using elbow pads and knee pads to make it more pleasant, for the Turkish get up. So, just pad those bony prominences. You can get them for super cheap, $10-12 for a pair. Nothing crazy, just something soft that will make the experience of the Turkish get up much more pleasant. Also, wristbands. The kettlebellers are probably screaming at me right now, like, we don't use wristbands, but, a lot of people need them. It can be super uncomfortable to be holding a weight and, the kettlebell resting right on the wrist. Usually it's an issue of how they're handling it, and their grip, their positioning. But, a wristband, especially for a lot of older adults, is a great thing that I think we can use. So we'll start on the ground over here. I probably won't be able to get the whole thing in the camera, but it's all good. So starting off in the fetal position, if you use a bell, which I recommend, don't start with one. You kind of sweep underneath the bell, and then you come to your back. So this arm goes up, this leg kind of comes closer to the buttocks, and you're going to be able to play around with this position the more you do it. But you're going to take a 45-degree angle down with your arm and with your leg. So it's called the get up, but I want you to think of it more as a roll up. From your back, you're kind of rolling. You're not going straight up, but you're kind of rolling laterally. So going across your midline, you're coming up to your elbow. So right now, if I didn't have a hoodie on, this would be kind of uncomfortable. So this is where the elbow pad is super helpful. So with your patients, if they do not have this range of motion in their shoulder, you don't have to have a weight overhead. You can use a sandbag. You can have a weight vest. There's different ways to load this down the road. So don't think you have to keep the weight up here, but in its purest form, that's what you're doing. So from the elbow, you're coming up to tall sitting, and this is a very difficult position for a lot of people. Some people do a high sweep, but do a low sweep. So I'm going to sweep this leg that stays straight back underneath me. So I'm going to sweep it underneath in this position. Ideally, you want this hand, this knee, and this foot all in a straight line. And this foot intersects kind of midway between this leg, which I'm not. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit. So if I had a weight, you see just the plumb line straight down. That's going to allow me to handle the weight a lot better. So from this position, a lot of people are going to try and come up from this position. You need to get the weight back. You're going to be able to handle the weight a whole lot better if you hinge back and get your weight towards that back heel. And then from there, you can come up. So this position right here may be one of the most bothersome for people, because often we do a windshield wipe to get in that lunge position. That can be really challenging, especially if you're doing it for reps. So what you can do instead of the windshield wipe with your patients, you can come over, and then you're able to come up. So windshield wipe or come over. And then from this position, your foot is dorsiflexed, your toes are extended. That can be difficult. A lot of my patients, they don't have that range of motion. So what you can do is get some just not thick, but stiff shoes. And that's going to allow them to put their foot into the ground, generate some force, but not overextend their toes. So just some stiff shoes will be helpful, and then they can come up to the standing position. Sometimes I will have them hold on to something. That's not the best thing to do, but in certain situations where we're really trying to build confidence, build their self-efficacy, make them feel like they're doing something hard, we'll put a hand there, and that's perfectly fine. So the weight stays overhead. Some people will rack it at that point and then just kind of reverse those steps. So that's kind of the quick and dirty, I would say, but big things to think about. So pads, surface, for sure. You may want to wear shoes to limit their need for ankle dorsiflexion and their toe extension. You may want to alter or change the windshield wipe. You may want them to actually turn and face a certain direction. You want to think about the position of the weight. Do they need to keep the weight overhead the entire time? A lot of people don't have the range of motion. They don't need to do that. You can load them with some type of sandbag or some type of weighted vest. So let's see. I think that's about it. That's a good little introduction. I'll put a link in the show notes to some really, really good videos of kind of the perfect Turkish get-up that you all can watch. And to just think about, all right, at this position, if I have this patient with this type of issue, how would this be difficult and how can I modify it? Because I think modifications are okay if we're working especially with older adults and we're trying to load them, trying to build their confidence and their self-efficacy. We can do that within kind of that zone of tolerance, like Scotty Butcher says, and really get the benefits of loading, getting them to practice floor transfers, building self-confidence, all those beautiful things, all within one exercise. So that, my friends, is a Turkish get-up. So before we go, I'll let you all go enjoy your Wednesday before Thanksgiving. We have a lot of courses coming up. So December 2nd and 3rd, Jeff Moore, this is trouble, Jerry Durham, and Dan Crusoe, the patient experience is in Vancouver, British Columbia. Then December 16th and 17th, Jeff, cervical spine management is at Recharge in Maryland. So Recharge is where Ryan Smith and Gene Shirakabrad are. So January 6th in 2018, Jeff's kicking off the year with lumbar spine management in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. And then on the 14th, the APHPT cohort number 5 begins. There's 2 spots left as of this week. We also have the modern management with older adult is going to be starting around then as well. And then January 20th, performing artist comprehensive management, Jessica Davis at Entropy, the lovely ladies at Entropy in Chicago. That was sold out, but they're adding 4 more spots. So those are all the courses, lots of stuff going on. But all of that can be found at ptonice.com. Thank you all for watching and have a lovely Thanksgiving.
Hit me! Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, go to ptonice.com, click on the Courses tab, and check out Modern Management of the Older Adult. This is a course that myself and Christina Previtt are going to be teaching. It's 8 weeks, an online format, interactive, and solely focused on helping students change how they practice and how they work with older adults. For more information, just go to ptonice.com. Thanks.